She called them toxic. Yet somehow she was the only poison at the table, smiling while pouring another glass of her own bitterness. I'm 35. My wife, Emily, is 31. We were having Sunday dinner at my parents' house in Austin, Texas, the kind of quiet ritual that usually feels like home. My mom's roast, my dad's 2 long stories, a bottle of Cabernet that had survived 3 birthdays. It should have been comforting. But from the second Emily sat down, she was radiating tension. She picked at her salad like it had insulted her, kept checking her phone between bites, and rolled her eyes whenever my dad started talking. When my mom asked if we were coming for Christmas, Emily gave this sharp little laugh. Not her usual one, the kind that used to pull me in. Christmas? Another holiday with your toxic relatives? No thanks, I've had enough. The fork clinked against my dad's plate. My mom's smile collapsed mid-expression. Emily wasn't finished. She started listing everyone's flaws. Aunt Carol the manipulator. Mom the control freak. Dad the hypocrite who hides behind church talk. Then she turned to me, eyes cold but steady. And you, Mark, you're too attached to them. Maybe that's why I'm done with this marriage. She said it so casually, like ordering dessert. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't an emotional slip. She'd been waiting for this moment, rehearsing it even. Emily came to dinner not to eat, but to detonate. I didn't raise my voice, didn't slam my hands on the table or demand an apology. I just set my fork down with the same care I'd used to set a glass sculpture on a shelf, reached for my phone and said quietly, "All right, if you're done, let's start now." Emily blinked, confused. What? I scrolled to Daniel Walker, attorney, hit speaker, and let it ring. The silence around the table was heavy enough to bend air. My mother's hand was frozen halfway to her wine glass. My father stared at his plate like he was afraid to move. Daniel answered on the 3rd ring. "Mark, everything okay?" "Hey, Dan," I said evenly. "Time to file for divorce. My wife just announced it at dinner." Emily's jaw fell open. "You're not serious." "Wait, what?" Daniel asked, his tone switching from friendly to professional. "Yeah," I said. "She just made it clear she's done. I figured we should start the paperwork tonight while the intent is fresh." Emily shot to her feet. "Mark, what the hell is wrong with you?" "I didn't mean it literally." I looked at her. Really looked. The tight smile. The glitter of defiance that was already crumbling into fear. "You said you hate my family and want out." "I'm just listening." The silence stretched. My mom finally whispered, "Sweetheart, maybe you two should." I raised a hand gently. "Mom, please." "It's fine. She's made her choice." My dad cleared his throat. "Son." "Dad," I interrupted softly. "It's okay." Emily's face went from red to ghostly white. She was realizing that I wasn't bluffing, that I wasn't playing the same emotional chess she'd mastered. For years, she'd thrown scenes like grenades, confident I'd always pick up the pieces after. This time, I wasn't moving. When Daniel said he'd start the draft and email the preliminary forms in the morning, I thanked him and hung up. Then I placed my phone beside my empty plate, folded my napkin, and said, "Dinner was great, Mom. Sorry it had to end like this." My mom started crying quietly. Emily stood there, trembling, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "You're embarrassing me," she hissed. "You embarrassed yourself," I said simply. We left the house in silence. The sound of the door closing behind us felt final, like the click of a lock sealing off an entire chapter of my life. In the car, Emily exploded. "You made me look crazy in front of your parents. Do you get off on humiliating me?" I kept my eyes on the road. The city lights blurred past, gold streaks on glass. "You did that yourself. You know I didn't mean it. It was a figure of speech. You always twist things." "Emily," I said calmly, "you've said that before. Every time. Every fight. And every time I believed you." She went quiet, maybe because she realized that tone, the even quiet one, was the sound of something truly over. When we got home, she stormed upstairs, slamming doors. I went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and leaned against the counter. No anger, no adrenaline, just a strange stillness spreading through me. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of what she'd say next. I wasn't rehearsing how to make peace or how to explain myself. I didn't feel like a man standing in the middle of a storm. I felt like someone who'd finally stepped out of it. She came back down an hour later, still fuming. "You're not really divorcing me. You wouldn't dare." "I already called," I said. "It's in motion." Her voice cracked. "You're throwing away everything we built?" I looked around the house. The furniture she picked, the framed photos that had slowly stopped, including my parents, the little trophies of control she'd scattered everywhere. "I'm keeping the one thing we lost years ago, my peace." She glared at me, eyes wet. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said, "but regret's cheaper than resentment." She went back upstairs without another word. I heard drawers opening, zippers, the rustle of clothes. Maybe she was packing, maybe just threatening to. It didn't matter. I sat on the couch, listening to the quiet creak of the house settling. For the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel hostile. It felt earned. By midnight, she was asleep in the guest room. I stayed up, replying to emails, drinking water instead of whiskey, watching the cursor blink on an empty document titled, "Next Chapter." And somewhere between one breath and the next, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. The next morning, I drove to my lawyer's office under a gray Austin sky. The air smelled like rain and asphalt, that quiet heaviness that makes you think about everything and nothing at once. Daniel had the documents ready. Clean split. One house, 2 cars, $6,000 in savings. No kids, no drama beyond signatures. He slid the papers across the mahogany desk like he'd done this 1,000 times. "You sure you don't want to wait a few days?" he asked, pen poised over the witness line. "No," I said. "If I wait, she'll turn this into another negotiation." He nodded. "Then let's make it official." 10 minutes later, my marriage was halfway to over. When I pulled into the driveway, Emily's car was already there. She was sitting at the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone, a mug of coffee in hand, looking like nothing had happened, like we hadn't shattered the night before. "You actually went to a lawyer?" she asked, voice flat but edged with disbelief. "You asked for it," I said. "That was the match." She slammed the mug down, coffee splashing across the marble. "You're punishing me for having emotions. That's what this is about. You want a perfect little doll wife who never says a thing wrong. I didn't rise to it. I want peace, Emily. That's all." She laughed, sharp and cold. "Peace? You mean control. You always hide behind that calm voice because it makes you look reasonable while I look crazy. Guess what? Everyone sees through you." I walked past her to the sink, rinsed her spilled coffee without answering. Silence infuriated her more than any argument ever could. By noon, I started getting calls. First her sister, voice trembling with performative concern. "Mark, she's devastated. You're really ending your marriage over one bad moment." "One bad moment doesn't destroy a marriage," I said. "Years of contempt do." Then her mother. She didn't mean what she said. You know how emotional Emily gets. "Exactly," I said quietly. "I do know." The pity calls kept coming. Mutual friends, co-workers from her office, even an old college friend of mine who barely knew her but had somehow gotten her version of the story. They all had the same tone, a blend of disappointment and curiosity, like they were testing how much of her drama they could believe. By the time I muted my phone, my name was already a topic. I didn't know how far she'd taken it until that night. At 9 p.m., I checked social media for the first time in months. There it was. A black and white quote post against a background of wilted roses. "Some men can't handle strong women. They call it attitude when it's really boundaries." The caption read, "Healing isn't linear, but walking away from toxicity is self-love." No names, of course. She was smarter than that. But the comments were a parade of validation. "Preach, queen. Men fear what they can't control. He'll regret losing you." She'd flipped the narrative overnight, from public humiliation to public redemption. My phone started buzzing again, this time with messages from coworkers. Screenshots, DMs, subtweets. She'd even changed her profile picture to one of her looking off into the distance, wrapped in a blanket like some tragic heroine. The rebrand was complete. At work the next day, a couple of colleagues avoided eye contact. One finally approached me during lunch. "Hey, man, is everything okay? I saw Emily's post." "Everything's fine," I said. "Better than fine, actually." He hesitated. "She's saying you blindsided her, that she didn't know you were serious about the divorce." I smiled. She did. She just didn't believe I'd follow through. That night, Emily tried one last act of normalcy. She came into the living room holding a glass of wine, wearing one of my old t-shirts, like she used to when things were good. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. "We can fix it." "Emily, you told my family you're done with me," I reminded her. She stepped closer. "I was angry. People say things when they're hurt." I turned off the TV. People don't build entire smear campaigns when they're hurt. They do that when they're cornered. Her mask slipped again just for a second. The softness vanished, replaced by cold calculation. "You think you're going to come out of this looking like the good guy? You're not. I've already told people what you're like behind closed doors." I met her gaze. "Then I guess you should be careful what you say next. Truth has a way of catching up." She smirked. "You can't prove anything." "Maybe not everything," I said, "but enough." The words made her flinch, though I hadn't raised my voice. There was something satisfying about her realizing I wasn't bluffing, that the calm she used to mistake for weakness was now her biggest problem. She left the room without another word. Upstairs, a door slammed. Downstairs, the quiet felt like justice slowly taking form. By morning, I'd stopped checking her posts. I didn't need to defend myself anymore. The people who mattered already knew who I was. The rest could enjoy her performance, because that's all it was now. A show for an audience that didn't know Act 2 was coming. A week later, Emily was officially served. I was at work when Daniel texted me. "Documents delivered." She signed for them herself. I sat there staring at the message, feeling a strange blend of relief and inevitability. It wasn't triumph. It was closure wrapped in paperwork. That evening, when I came home to grab a few things, I found her sitting on the porch steps, eyes red, mascara streaked. "You didn't have to do this," she said quietly. "We could have fixed it." "Emily," I said, keeping my voice calm, "you announced it first. I'm just following through." She shot up. "You're heartless." "Maybe, but at least I'm consistent." The next few days were chaos disguised as contrition. First came the pleading texts, "We can go to therapy. We can rebuild. I'll change, I swear." Then came the rage, "You'll regret this. You'll end up alone." Then the pity, "I can't sleep. I can't eat. Please, Mark, talk to me." I didn't respond to any of it. That's when she escalated. On Thursday, my boss called me into his office. "Everything all right at home?" My stomach sank. "Why?" He looked uncomfortable. "We got a call from your wife. She said you're going through some kind of breakdown, that you've been emotionally volatile." I exhaled slowly. "I'm fine, sir. Going through a divorce, yes, but not unstable." He nodded, relieved. "That's what I figured. Just had to check." She sounded off. That word "off" stuck with me, because it was true. Emily wasn't thinking rationally anymore. She was fighting for control. That night, I found out she'd been messaging mutual friends, spinning new versions of the story. In one, I'd screamed at her in front of my parents. In another, I'd kicked her out with no warning. By Friday morning, a mutual acquaintance texted, "Hey man, Emily's saying you've got anger issues. Everything okay?" I replied with a single screenshot, her post about being a strong woman walking away from toxicity. No caption, just context. That shut most of it down. When I signed the lease on my new apartment, a quiet second-floor place overlooking the river, I sent her a brief message. "Please don't come by. Communication through lawyers only." She didn't reply, but the next day, when I got home from work, there were 3 notes taped to my door. "We need to talk. You don't get to walk away like this. I can't let you go." The handwriting shook, like she'd been crying while writing them. I took photos, removed them carefully, and texted Daniel. "Do I need to report this?" His response came fast. "Yes. Document everything. Don't engage." That night, I slept with the lights off and the blinds open, listening for the crunch of gravel outside. Nothing. Just the hum of distant traffic and the slow pulse of my own heartbeat. 2 days later, my mom called. Her voice was trembling. "Mark." She came by the house. I sat up straight. "What?" She was crying. "Said you'd destroyed her life." I told her she needed to leave. She just kept saying she didn't know who else to talk to. I heard my dad in the background. "Give me the phone." When he spoke, his voice was steady, the way it always got when things turned serious. "Son, stay clear. Don't meet her. Don't answer her calls. People like that don't apologize, they look for weakness." He was right. Emily wasn't seeking closure. She was seeking a foothold. Any crack she could wedge herself into. That night, I double-checked the locks and pulled the blinds halfway shut. My phone buzzed constantly. Unknown numbers, blocked calls, random texts that alternated between love and hate. "I miss you. You ruined me. I'm scared. You'll pay for this." It was like arguing with a storm. By the end of the week, she'd managed to contact almost everyone in my circle. Friends who hadn't texted me in months were suddenly reaching out. Some were concerned, others curious, a few clearly fishing for gossip. I answered none of them. I didn't need to defend myself anymore. I just needed to stay still and let her unravel on her own. The final straw came Saturday night. I was sitting on the balcony when headlights swept across the parking lot below. Her car. She sat there for almost 20 minutes, engine running, staring up at my window. Then she got out, walked halfway to the stairs, stopped, and turned back. Something in her posture, that mix of pride and panic, told me she wasn't sure what she wanted. Forgiveness, revenge, or just attention. She left a final note under my windshield wiper. It read, "You can't erase me." I folded it once, placed it in a drawer, and locked it away with the others. Because I knew she was right. I couldn't erase her, but I didn't have to. Some people fade all on their own once you stop feeding the fire. Mediation felt less like justice and more like theater. Everyone played their parts. The concerned attorneys, the weary judge, the ex-couple pretending they hadn't already burned the bridge to ashes. The conference room smelled faintly of paper, coffee, and nerves. Emily sat across from me in a pale blue dress, hair perfectly curled, eyes red but defiant. She looked like she'd spent hours crafting the image of a woman wronged. Her lawyer, a slick guy with gelled hair and an expensive suit, started with a flourish. "Your Honor, my client has endured months of emotional abuse, humiliation, and abandonment. She was blindsided by this divorce after a single argument, without warning or compassion." I almost laughed. It was such a polished lie that even the stenographer paused for half a second before typing. My attorney, Daniel, didn't raise his voice or interrupt. He simply waited for the silence to settle, then spoke in that calm, scalpel-sharp tone of his. "Your Honor, we have witnesses." Multiple statements confirm that Mrs. Lewis announced her intent to divorce at a family dinner, in front of her in-laws, unprovoked. My client merely followed through on her own declaration. Emily flinched. Her lawyer tried to redirect. My client was clearly speaking in anger. A joke made in poor taste does not. Daniel cut in smoothly. "Then perhaps your client can explain the subsequent social media posts labeling my client as toxic and emotionally abusive, or the phone calls to his employer claiming he was unstable. Those don't seem like jokes, do they?" Emily's lips trembled. I was upset. I wasn't thinking straight. The judge adjusted her glasses. "Mrs. Lewis, did you or did you not post publicly about your husband's alleged behavior?" Emily's voice cracked. "Yes, but..." "No buts," the judge said flatly. "The court takes defamation and harassment seriously, especially during ongoing proceedings." The mask slipped then, not fully, but enough. The tears came on cue, but the sincerity was gone. Everyone in that room could feel the performance collapsing under its own weight. The judge sighed. This isn't a soap opera, Mrs. Lewis. This is mediation. I don't need dramatics. I need honesty. For a moment, Emily sat still, eyes glassy, her breathing shallow. Then she whispered, "I just wanted him to fight for me." That's when the last piece clicked into place. She hadn't wanted reconciliation. She'd wanted resistance. The fight. The proof that she still mattered. The judge nodded slowly. Unfortunately, that's not what this room is for. The settlement was simple in the end. The house would be sold and the profits split. Each kept their own car, their own accounts, their own ghosts. No alimony, no drawn-out drama. Just signatures and silence. When the paperwork was done, I thanked Daniel and stepped outside into the autumn air. It felt sharper than usual, cleaner. The courthouse stood behind me like a monument to endings. I'd barely made it to the parking lot when I heard her voice. "Mark!" She was running toward me, heels clicking on the pavement, tears streaking her cheeks. "We can fix this. Please, we can start over. I still love you." I turned to face her. "You love the attention." Her face twisted, confusion turning to rage. "That's not fair." "Neither was calling my boss," I said evenly. "Neither was lying to my friends, or pretending to be the victim. You don't love me, Emily. You love the drama. You need it like air." Her mother appeared then, storming across the lot, eyes blazing. "You ruined her. You took everything from her." I looked at her calmly. "No, ma'am. She did that herself. I just believed her words." For once, Emily had nothing to say. She just stood there, trembling, like someone watching their reflection crack in a mirror they thought was unbreakable. Daniel pulled up beside me, his car idling. "You good?" he asked through the window. I nodded. "Yeah, done, finally." As I drove away, I checked the rearview mirror one last time. Emily stood in the lot, her mother's hand gripping her arm, both of them shrinking into the distance. There was no satisfaction in it, just quiet confirmation that the storm had finally run out of thunder. I rolled down the window. The air smelled of rain and exhaust and freedom. The last thought that passed through my mind was simple. You can't save someone who finds comfort in chaos. You can only stop letting them drag you into it. 3 months later, it was officially over. The ink dried on the final decree. The signatures turned to PDFs, and the past, so loud for so long, went silent. No more messages. No more calls. No more "we need to talk." Just space. I moved into a small apartment near Zilker Park. 2 bedrooms, one for sleep and one for breathing. I bought a new couch, a modest TV, and a plant I'd probably forget to water. But for the first time in years, every item in the room felt mine. Not approved, not negotiated, not part of some endless compromise. Just mine. My parents invited me for Sunday dinner again. The same roast, the same stories. Only this time, no tension. Mom smiled like she'd exhaled a 3-year breath. Dad was back to his old jokes, the ones that used to make Emily sigh under her breath. Now they just made us laugh. He told the one about the broken lawnmower for the 100th time, and instead of annoyance, I felt something new. Gratitude. After dinner, Mom hugged me longer than usual. "It's good to have you back, sweetheart." I didn't have the heart to tell her she was wrong. She didn't get me back. She got what was left after I stopped trying to survive someone else's storm. Some nights, I still thought about that dinner, the spark that lit the fuse. Sometimes I'd replay it in my head, wondering what would have happened if I just swallowed my pride, laughed it off, smoothed things over like always. But every time that thought came, another followed. I'd still be dying slowly. Not from a single wound, but from the quiet corrosion that comes from loving someone who feeds on resentment. Emily used to call my family toxic. She said they were suffocating, judgmental, fake. But now, looking back, I realized the only poison at that table had been her smile. Sharp enough to cut, sweet enough to disguise it. Freedom didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like quiet mornings with coffee and no phone buzzing. Like sleeping without tension. Like walking through my door and not scanning the room for moods. I started seeing someone new a month ago. Haley. She works in graphic design. Kind eyes, messy bun, the kind of laugh that fills a room without demanding it. We met through friends, accidentally at first. She didn't ask about Emily, didn't pry into the drama. We just talked. About music, about movies, about her dog that chews everything except what it's supposed to. Last Friday, we ordered pizza and watched an old comedy she loved. Halfway through, she laughed so hard she snorted, then covered her face, embarrassed. And I laughed too, really laughed, for the first time in what felt like years. No venom, no performance, no eggshells. After she left, I sat there on the couch, the smell of pepperoni lingering in the air, and it hit me. Freedom isn't loneliness. It's living without poison. It's being able to breathe without checking who's watching. To speak without fearing how it'll be twisted. To love without it feeling like an endurance test. Emily once said that peace was boring. That real passion came from chaos. Maybe for her that was true. But for me, peace is electric. It hums quietly in the background of everything I do. Proof that I got out, that I didn't let bitterness define me. Every now and then, I still get the occasional update through friends. Emily's moved in with someone new. A real estate agent, apparently. He's charming, confident, funny. The kind of man who likes to fix things. I hope he knows what he's in for, but part of me knows he won't, at least not yet. As for me, I've learned that endings don't always need explosions. Sometimes justice looks like calm. Sometimes the truest revenge is rebuilding your life so quietly that the person who tried to break it wonders why they never had that kind of peace. And when I think back to that night at the dinner table, when Emily smiled across the roast and said she was done, I realized something simple but profound. She was right. She was done. And so was I. Only difference is she mistook destruction for liberation. I found mine in silence.